Hello everyone, welcome to another post commentary. This time we're talking about Riptide 2025, Splatoon's largest LAN. So I always try to take some time to talk about LAN events, and this is a pretty obvious one to cover, by far the largest event this year. Normally there is a bit of competition for it, in terms of like stacked events and all. But no, this year was like a pretty one-sided winner here. It was pretty obvious that Riptide was going to be the largest, and so it's what the majority of the video is going to talk about. I kind of just went into this, knowing I was going to cover it based on what happened at the event. So it's pretty segmented into separate bits that we'll be going over. I will say right off the bat that I thought this video would be a lot longer at first. This ended up barely being 8 minutes, even with other clips in it. So there ended up being a lot less to say than I thought there would be. Anyway, let's get started. Obviously, a lot of the footage from Nintendo and other people who recorded at the event helped a ton. It was very cool to get some nice professional-looking shots of the whole thing that I think really helped with the scaling. The largest Splatoon LAN ever in terms of attendance, and it also was the most stacked in terms of top-level competition. So today, I want to cover everything that happened and what makes events like these special. So it's a bit of a longer intro with the little intro bit that I have there, but there is a lot of information to talk about. It's about LANs, what makes them special, why this one is large, and kind of get a very basic intro as to, yeah, this is basically going to be a recap of what happened at the event all in one. And again, I really wanted to promote these kind of events and get them out there a little bit more, and I really do hope this video helps with that. I heard a lot of people who went to Riptide as like their first event this year, and I'm hoping a lot of those people sharing their experience will help other people give it a shot next year. So I had to think about what I wanted to start with here, and I figured the first thing that would be important to go over is like how different it can be, because it's not really talked about much how different LAN competition feels from online competition. So I wanted to do that as a bit of a starter to really show off what the event is like, and this also basically gave me an excuse to put a bunch of clips of some of the moments of the crowd and things like that, because that stuff I obviously wanted to include. But like, where do I segment that in a way that makes sense? I figured this was a pretty easy one. Just right there next to you. Thanks for being in the shot, Nolan. And the commentating backstage thing is really only in there because I saw this clip from Falco and I was like, oh my god, yeah, you do actually hear everything. And I also thought this was a really cool clip because the caster perspective is really, like, never really shown off that much. So I feel like it's cool to actually showcase a little bit of what that's like for, some of the commentators back here, that even for them, this is a very different experience than what they normally do. Yeah, that chant was just straight up really funny. That came out of nowhere from the crowd. I don't really remember who started that one. Here's another change I did for the event. I had no shame in doing this whatsoever. I think that TO should honestly be doing this as well. Two of the teams of the event, Lavaca, which was Crush Soda, and Void Lacti, or something like that, which was basically just Milky Way minus ice plus gray. I just called Milky Way and Crush Soda throughout this. I hate random names for stuff like this, but especially when it comes to teams, I want people to know who these guys are that show up in these events, and this is an easy way to communicate it because people have heard the name Crush Soda over the past few years or so. So I'm not going to use this like different random name. I don't know why people do this. So yeah, when I cover it, I just use the normal team names. I don't even bother. It's like, I don't know if I actually said Milky Way in the script because I didn't really have a whole lot to say about them, even though they won. But I definitely used Crush Soda a whole lot. And like, yeah, very intentional decision for me. I do wonder if it would have been better to zoom in the clip to purely show the screen or also showing some of the crowd, because this is a very far forward crowd shot. The crowd extends like a while further backward. Another thing, I guess is totally unrelated to the video, but whatever, this is my post commentary. This is where the Mario Kart stream was, and I originally thought day 3 that the side stream would be on here since Mario Kart wrapped up the day prior. That would have been pretty cool. Also, you could not hear the commentary in the crowd like at all. Just the game sound. But you do get all the POVs. And yeah, I can't really communicate what the experience is like, but it is really just amazing. There is one thing that got cut from this segment, which I was going to put a PSA. It is loud. The hand clappers are loud. The screams are loud. People crowd around you. If you have noise sensitivity, you might want to be aware of that. And this was a PSA I originally wanted to put out because I have that problem. I have noise sensitive hearing, so it is a bit of a problem for me as LANs have gotten larger. But it ended up not really fitting a bit well. It was a bit of a mood killer and a little unnecessary. And it also is just kind of obvious from the clips that it's loud. Like, no kidding. So it ended up being cut from the script. And this was a really good transition into the next segment because obviously the main story of the event was the Rainmaker stalling. So this was a super cool way to translate, basically using all of the crowd chanting clips as a way to segment the two clips into each other, which I really liked. This was a good transition. And it also helps a lot because the things I talk about in the video are pretty segmented. They feel pretty different from each other. Like these could have technically all been a bunch of like little 2-minute mini videos if I really wanted to. You know, not a thing I actually do, but something I'm thinking in my head. So in order to make it one connected piece, I really thought about how these were going to transition into each other when scripting and figuring out what order I talk about for all of these. So this was one that I was pretty happy with. Honestly, I debated talking about this more. I'm not really a fan of booing at events like these. I think it's kind of unnecessary, even when people do lame things at the end of the day, but it's also something that happens in competition. And it's a topic that's a lot more complicated than, you know, this kind of video could do. Like, even if it was its own segment, it would not be large enough. There's like a lot you can say in terms of stuff like that. So I chose to leave it. I don't think it's a massive deal at the end of the day. I didn't see any of the teams who got booed really complaining or anything or saying that it was bad for them. I at some point I think tried to motion the crowd to not boo, but it totally didn't come across well, and it was after the game was already over anyway. Because personally, I didn't want like the other team to feel bad about it or anything like that, but it was probably just unnecessary for me to do something like that, honestly. So, I didn't mention it in the video, but it's pretty obvious now that Nintendo literally covered it on their channel. But yeah, Nintendo reps were like here at this event, and they got to hear this chant, which is just, yeah. I don't got the words for it. It is a little funny. But I mean, yeah, in general, found the chant funny in the moment, and then afterward was like, wow, we really did do that there. Like, there was definitely a lot more Rainmaker hate than I thought, because I didn't think it would be this universal, but like, damn, this was really out there. It's not going to be going away anytime soon. It is the first of 2 times I alluded to the NA League to help get people excited for the event. There's not much else to say about it. I will say when scripting this, I scripted this talking about Super Jump 5, and we ended up using footage from Super Jump 6 because it happened before this video came out, and I don't have any other further commentary because it works. It's footage of all modes in a major tournament, which is what the point was about. But yeah, this was originally going to be a Super Jump 5 clip, and it became a Super Jump 6 clip. Just, you know, that's what Arias went for when they edited the video. So yeah, not really a point I have a whole lot to say about, but yeah, there you go. To keep it away from that route. Rainmaker, and that's why Rainmaker stalling is so good in this game, even though they further balanced it to be punished more. Like, Rainmaker frees are harsher in this game, and there's typically a lot better placed Rainmaker frees than previous games. But it doesn't matter if there's less routes. Like, S2 already had that problem of limited routes to push in. S1 was really the only one that had a few maps that had, like, a lot of varied routes for it. Like, the less routes there are, the more likely your stalling spot is going to be far away. So that's a big reason why stalling is such a problem. This was another section that I felt, was pretty small. This ended up being the least I had to say about it because, to be honest, and I'm going to be honest here, the comps in this event were inherently not that interesting in the top 3. Like, dive stuff is cool. I like sword dually stuff, but it's not rare anymore. Like, I kind of have a running joke with Moonlight that every team we fight is either Bucket S-Blast or is like a sword dually dive team. But, like, that's what it is now. I guess Hypernova technically doesn't have, like, sword dually, but they're still, like, dive style. It's still very similar to it at this point. So it's like, this is pretty much what every team does now. And now I guess Moonlight is, like, becoming that third thing instead of being, like, a 10th team, being a Charger team. Which, to be fair, that is also picked sometimes, but usually Leader just also falls under the Bucket S-Blast thing. Like, that's what it's played when PXG does it. So, like, every team is one of those 2 comps right now. I'm not saying that's inherently a large problem, but, like, it is a little stale. And then all modes, unfortunately, isn't going to really help with that because, yeah, my point I was trying to make here is that you have overall more stall. This graphic doesn't even convey it fully, which is nothing wrong with the graphic, but mainly that Kyo used a lot of Pro in the other modes instead of Dreadringer. So this was Pro Dually, this was Pro Dually over here, and then this was 52 instead, right? But Goss could have also played Pro. I mean, I know he didn't. I don't know why I'm saying that. And then, yeah, this was, I said Dualies and Swords, 3 of each. This highlight was an error that I decided to just leave because the wording was kind of convoluted. I meant that there were a total of 3 Dualies and 3 swords. Technically 4 swords, but like per team, you know, each team had like Julian sword. Not that the combination was present all the way. Ended up being a combo I didn't really care about. Also, I think it already happened earlier and got pointed out in the comments that I said K-Pro instead of Pro, which is one of those errors that I caught, but I was like, well, this will be good interaction bait, and I don't really care. So I just left it as K-Pro. I didn't adjust it. Also, yeah, just shout out to Sencon for these graphics. They've been doing one for pretty much every single tournament. Very easy graphic to, you know, copy over and use for the video. I think it's good to communicate the basics of what comps made it to the very end of every tournament. So, like, those are, of course, very helpful. And then I like being able to reference SWS here, obviously, kind of show, like, hey, we have learned a little bit from it, which could be a topic in its own right. And then the last thing to mention was what I thought I'd have more to talk about, which is Leader and Rapid, because obviously we've been scrimming these teams. We've been running Leader and Tower. We've been seeing other people play the Rapid and stuff, and nope. Nothing major happened with it this time around, so, like, it was there. It didn't really do anything, but hey, it was there, I guess, and that's all I can say. Which I don't feel as bad about, because Leader's getting its own video, so we'll have more to say about it later. And then Moonlight ended up getting their own segment, which I actually don't have a whole lot to say about. Part of this was I realized that we needed to talk about it more, but part of it was, of course, also that Moonlight is just a fan favorite at these events, so I wanted to show a clip like this. Shout out to Shadow for playing the crowd here. Very much a character. And then also just, I wanted to cover this because they won the previous lands, and I did want to mention Gommel and Momocon at least a little bit. There wasn't as much competition for them. Mainly Gommel was really understacked. There was 2 other notable teams at Momocon, which it was a pickup of some free flow players, if I remember properly, and there was a Max team that I don't remember the lineup of properly either, so my bad. But both were, like, stacked enough to have a chance against Moonlight there. So I did want to note that. Gave me a chance to reference Moonlight's tournament run and talk about the comps. And it's been very interesting because Moonlight's had a lot of development since scripting this, so I didn't really mention what happened Super Jump 6 onward, but I think I will probably hold that for its own discussion at another time. I want to give Moonlight a little bit more time to cook and see if that comp is going to be what we do going forward. As of right now, probably yes. The Charger stuff is looking really good, but we still have a few things to figure out, and it's still very new. And I also thought it was fun to talk about, like, you know, dive stuff, the Brella thing we picked, things like that. So this was kind of just a mini segment on how Moonlight did and my thoughts about it, which is something I could probably talk about more for tournaments. I know people are probably really interested in hearing, you know, my thoughts on Moonlight and stuff like that. So I'll try to talk about them a little bit more in events, but I hope this section was good at covering for that. Anyway, let's get to the transition to the outro, because that's already about it. Being able to meet up with your friends and spend time with the community can serve as a big reminder as to why we're all in this scene in the first place. And that's, like, the thing that I want to communicate, that we can't really show background footage or anything, obviously. It's one of those points that's hard to convey in the background, but, like, yeah, lands are just awesome to be there. Competition could be totally absent, and lands would still be cool. They are awesome. They are an experience, and I did want to get that across in the outro, and they take an ungodly amount of work to actually put together, so, like, you know, be appreciative of the people who put these kind of events on. It is a lot of work. And yeah, of course, I wanted to open the comments to people sharing their experiences, which obviously did happen too, and I'm very grateful for that. So I hope that could serve as a way for people who did go to the event to be able to, you know, talk about their experiences and share it with others. So yeah, a bit of a short one. I thought, again, that this would be a lot longer when I initially did it, but I was still pretty happy with how this video came out. You know, I felt like it covered all of the major things, and I hope it got people excited for lands in the future. We got more tournament stuff coming up with the NA League. I know it'll overlap with my channel break that I'll be, you know, announcing in a little bit on the actual channel itself. But overall, I'm really excited to be covering more events in the future. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you all later.